Hello and welcome to Thursday's movie news here at MBE. I am joined as always by John. John,
Yes.
do we have a whole host of headlines in store for you guys? And the first one, don't like to say we're always right. We're not always right, but it's good when you are and you can brag about it. Mulan's release date, as well as Tenet's, reportedly may be delayed again, John.
Yes.
Bad news again. Disney might delay the release of their live-action Mulan remake again following Tenet's delay and coronavirus spikes across the country. This is, of course, the US when they say country. According to a report from THR...
Series argument again. It's only the US teams that play in it.
Yeah, Mr.
That's
Universe
not
always
the
comes
world.
from Earth. It's a fix.
That's not
It's
how
a
the
fix.
world works.
According to a report from
There are
THR, it appears the release of Mulan could be delayed again. The reasoning isn't attributed to Tenet's delay, though, as the rising numbers of COVID-19 cases has left Disney rethinking their strategy. For a film of this size, New York and Los Angeles need to have theatres open for Mulan to perform well, but the surge of cases in those cities could keep theatres shut down. Disney was also counting on China to help Mulan's box office numbers, but theatres have yet to reopen there due to the coronavirus. John, this was our argument when we spoke about this last time. I think you've actually spoke about it since then on solo shows, but
Yes.
both of us did talk about this, and it was the Chinese factor in this, that they are not ready to
No. And they're way
join
ahead
the
of us.
world again, so and they are way ahead of us as well. You're absolutely right, but Tenet as well, that's part of the news. This came in later on, when we were preparing the topics for this show. But what's your thoughts on this, John? Was this something you expected from Mulan first and foremost, and was it something you expected to obviously hear from Tenet's point of
It
view
was
as well?
something I expected from Mulan, Stephen, because certainly reading some of the topics and the headlines which have been coming out in recent times regarding the situation over in China with the coronavirus pandemic. Of course, there has been a surge in cases in places like Beijing again. And just one headline in particular sticks in my mind from perhaps a week and a half, 2 weeks back, where it was suggested that something ridiculous like 40 or 50% of theatres in China may have to be closed down because they're not being used. People are not going back to the theatres in their droves, despite some big blockbusters being re-released in special editions, the likes of Endgame and whatnot. They're not going back to the extent that they were prior to this lockdown and this pandemic being a thing at the beginning of the year, end of last year for China. So I'm not really surprised that Mulan is indeed looking to be delayed once again, because China is the primary demographic, I would imagine, with this movie, with it being a sort of authentic Asian experience, Chinese experience, a classic story about, well, it's not just like a real life story, but it's a classic Disney retelling, and it looks really different to previous animated Disney movies. It looks like a really cool little story. It looks like it's got heart, and there's some things going on in there. It's a powerful female, of course, something that Disney have been championing anyway. They've always had their princesses, and they've been fierce in their own unique ways. As one Kathleen Kennedy likes to use that word, fierce, with females. The force is fierce, females are fierce, and they are in Disney movies. So look, I'm not surprised, because China are the primary demographic for this particular movie, and if China isn't ready to welcome in huge numbers of fans or just theatre-going audience members, then they're not going to make the money back at the box office. In terms of Tenet, it's not something I expected for Tenet, because I felt like Nolan was pretty adamant that this movie was coming out in July. Obviously, he had to come and go a little with the theatre, or not the theatre, the studio. They backed off a little bit. They wanted to make it even later. He was adamant, no, just a 2-week delay. It'll still come out at the end of July. I think it's 31st it's coming out now.
Yeah.
They were supposed to be releasing Inception on the 17th. But with this whole New York thing, I didn't realise there was another spike in New York and in LA. That's going to complicate things. That's the two largest movie markets in the United States. If they can't get bums and seats to watch movies,
which is going to have a knock-on effect for other big films later on in the year as well, John.
Of course it is.
It's all affecting
Bond,
everyone, all the
Bond.
studios at the moment. Yeah, Bond and June as well.
Oh, this franchise, it's huge in China, apparently, Bond.
Yeah, surprisingly, I didn't know that. But Big cast as well, John, in
Yes.
this movie. It's a who's who of Asian superstars as well,
Yeah.
so you've got to take that into account as well. I'm disappointed. I was thoroughly looking forward to this film. This is probably, I think, the third time this has been moved now.
Yeah, I think it
something
is.
like
Yeah,
that.
I
Yeah,
wanna
no,
say it is.
because we've been talking about it for the last 10 months or so, I think, maybe close to a year now.
Well, we reacted to 2 trailers, Stephen, and it was
Yeah.
beginning of last year, I want to say.
Yeah.
So that's been a long time. Right?
Yeah, and another thing as well, John, is what is the solution? What is the solution? There's not much you can do about this. Health and safety have got to come first. That's paramount. We talked about this the other week when we were talking about Tenet's delay, 2-week delay at the time. It made sense if theatres were going to open again. Give the film something as big as this. Some breathing space before you release it, and it made sense. It's not a big travesty for Tenet's new date anyway. It's only I don't know how many days,
2
but
weeks, I think.
yeah, so it's not a big deal for that, and I'm pretty sure.
Delayed again though.
Well, this
When's
is the
it coming
thing.
out,
I know. It really just depends on obviously this, what's happening in the two of the biggest cities in the world. But we're going to move on, John,
Yes.
because this is something that actually ties in with it. But from our side of things, the UK sets safety guidelines for cinema reopening, but masks not yet mandatory. That's a bit of a surprise. I didn't think that'd be one. Now, I'm going to just read some of these guidelines, which is a little bit boring, John, but there's a reason for it. And most of these guidelines are already in our supermarkets just now. It's more common sense than anything. So the guidelines reflect advice from a working group of senior executives from over a dozen of the UK's largest cinema operators, as well as input from group's wider membership. The guidelines include measures to ensure social distancing at every point during a visit to the cinema, with a particular emphasis on auditoriums, enhancing cleaning and hygiene regimes, including the provision of antibacterial gel stations for cinema goers throughout each site. That'll be nice with your popcorn.
Yes.
The installation
I'm already used to that. I have my little chicken fridge raiders every day,
Yeah.
try to put muscle on. I'm sanitising my hands, so 60% alcohol sanitizer. with
Can't be
chicken.
bad then. We're Scottish after all.
Yeah.
We
You get drunk
intake
while you're
it.
eating your
Yeah,
chicken.
that's it.
Win-win.
Clean hands. The installation of plastic screens at key contact points to help protect customers and staff. Encouragement, wherever possible, of online bookings, e-ticketing and contactless payments. It's all supermarket stuff here.
Yeah.
Revised scheduling of films to
Supermarket
allow time for cleaning of auditoriums between screenings and to avoid crowds in corridors. This is the difference here. That last point, John.
Yes.
The revised scheduling of films to allow time for cleaning of auditoriums between screens. But more so, I think, because the overcrowding in cinemas at times. I'll give you an example, John, and I think you would agree with me here. Although we do have our Cine Passes and we're members of Cine World, we do occasionally, depending on what film it is, either go to an IMAX or go to View, which is in Hamilton, which is in the outskirts of Glasgow.
It's closer.
The one in Hamilton, I always feel is so bustly, with it's that long corridor and it's so
one
narrow.
way in and out, Steve.
yeah,
It's via
yeah.
stairs.
So I
Can't
do not
socially
mind
distance.
that. I know that these cinemas are going to take a hit because if they're talking about revised scheduling, which it means they're going to cut down the amount of screen times for each of these films, which is going to have an effect on obviously their intake. But
And
at the minute,
capacity will be reduced as well.
but at the minute, they're not making any money at all, so it's better than nothing. So, and it's common sense, John. We were talking about obviously the health and safety fears with New York and Los Angeles, but this is affecting us all worldwide.
It really is.
And I think it's good to see that these senior execs from the cinema operators, are starting to put these. It means we're getting closer, John. We're not quite there yet. Scotland's a little bit different to England at the moment, but it's a one step forward at least.
Yeah, Stephen, Lord knows when we will actually be seeing the insides of a theatre again in Scotland, because as you do know, our First Minister, who is the leader of our country, if you're not aware of the political setup in Scotland, I'm a fan of what she does in general, but she's really, really way behind the curve when it comes to opening up the country. And our infection rate is way, way lower than a lot of places in Europe, so it can be annoying. But when you see some of the idiots frequenting beaches and stuff like that down in England, you can see why perhaps she's being cautious. But it's a shame because it does mean that we are behind the curve when it comes to getting back into theatres. So if it's continuing on in this vein, England and perhaps other parts of Europe will be in theatres in the beginning of July. We will probably be the later end of July. So we will maybe miss out on some screenings of the likes of The Empire Strikes Back in 4K because it's limited, and by the time that the theatres open in Scotland we will not get the chance to see it. But you're right, Stephen, some of these measures they're implementing, we've already heard about it over in the States, the likes of screens and whatnot at points of contact, and cleaning, revised opening dates. It will be open perhaps 2 days, it will be shut in the middle of the week for cleaning, deep cleaning, and then again throughout the rest of the week they'll be closing it off so that it's limiting the amount of points of perhaps contact with the virus itself that people will come in contact with when they're going to these theatres. So this is all common sense really. This isn't something that you'd be surprised about, but what I really am surprised about is that sort of concept of masks not being mandatory in a theatre. That is idiotic to me. We've seen blowback from that in the States. I think it was Cinemark. Initially they weren't happy about it. People were saying they were going to boycott this theatre. I don't know if it is, it may have been Regal. I know it was one of the sort of chains over in the States. I'm not aware of them because I've never actually been to the United States, but they changed it. They forced mask wearing when people were obviously frequenting the theatres. And then I think in AMC it's the actual company workers, the staff, who are now petitioning to implement the usage of masks for people who are coming and going and watching movies. This seems like a sort of obvious solution. If you're bringing in people in the middle of a pandemic, they should be forced to wear a mask. The primary sort of transmission for this thing is through droplets and sneezing and whatnot. So if you wear a mask, you're reducing it quite a bit.
Circulation in the cinemas as well, John. It's run through aircon. Exactly. So, and you know, you always hear those horror stories when you're on an airplane about aircon as well. You know, the germs that spread around just because of the actual air conditioning systems. And it's not any different in theatres either. And
Stephen, we've already seen super spreaders and conferences and whatnot, but look, I'm not going to go down that route.
No.
I'm going to bring it back to what it means for us. I think most people in the middle of a pandemic, sensible people, will wear masks anyway. I don't think they have to be told.
Well, this is it,
if you've got anything about you at all, then you will know if you're going to a public place, you're going to be sitting with complete strangers in an enclosed place, as you did say, with recycled air through air conditioning and whatnot. You wear a mask. It's common sense. The theatre shouldn't have to regulate it, but forcing it like we're getting on public transport and in supermarkets and stuff like that seems like the correct decision, certainly for companies like this who have lost billions of dollars over the last 3-4 months. If you want bums in seats, you want to inspire confidence in people coming back, then you need to make things.
That is the other thing, John. It's try to convince people to come back into theatres as well. You know, and the buzz. You know, if you keep your eye on like social media, etc. There's a lot of film lovers out there, film goers. They're not ready mentally to go back into theatres. You know, and rightly so. Even with the different lockdown measures, you know, here in the UK, they all vary at the moment just because of different governments. But I don't think anyone, well, I don't know, because if you look at our parks here at the moment in the seasides, it's a bit crazy. But when it comes to theatres and closed areas, I think people are thinking a bit more carefully.
Absolutely. Stephen, look, I ain't got much more to add on to say that, look, I probably will wear a mask when I do go to the theatre again. I feel like it's necessary. It's not just for me, it's for other people. You're saving other people, really. I've had the disease, but there's still some issues regarding sort of immunity and whatnot, so don't want to take the risk, man. If I want to go and experience Tenet, then I will be wearing a mask, and I'll be forgoing the popcorn as much as it kills me inside, because I love eating my popcorn. I usually rattle it before the movie starts anyway, so I could do that in the car, but it will kill me inside to an extent. But
listen, we'll go off our soapboxes now and we'll move on to the next topic here, John. It's Ron Perlman rejected Hellboy reboot cameo offer. Original Hellboy star Ron Perlman reveals that he had the opportunity to be in the 2019 reboot starring David Harbour, but decided against it. Perlman revealed he could have had a cameo in 2019's reboot by saying the reboot was something I had the opportunity to participate in, and decided that the only version of Hellboy I'm interested in is the one I do with Guillermo. And so in walking away from it, I truly walked away from it, and I haven't seen it or heard much about it. I wished him well, but I was not in my bailiwick. I don't know what that means. Bailiwick. I don't know what that means.
Never heard of that.
Perlman also explained that the main reason Hellboy 3 never happened was because Del Toro's is one of the busiest guys in the business. What's your take on this, John? Because this is actually a different point of view now. I've got a different opinion on Perlman in regards to this, because initially there was segments of his little speech that were looked very snidey and very cutting at one point, but it seems like he's not got any hard feelings towards certainly David Harbour. He's wished him well and everyone that was working on it, but I think he's just made it clear that he wasn't interested in it unless Del Toro was involved.
And that's absolutely fair, Stephen, because it was a passion project for the man back in the early 2000s, I want to say, when it came out.
Yep.
And Guillermo seems to inspire that sort of, I don't know, devotion in the people that he's worked with. He seems to be quite the director, and people seem to want to remain true to him. And certainly with this, there was a lot of sort of, I don't know how you'd call it. I mean, they were kind of going against it before it was actually released. I can't recall the actual word at the moment. I'm so hot, you'll have to forgive me. It is ungodly warm in this room. I'm doing well to keep a hat on my head. It is like Cairo in here at the moment. I feel like I'm doing this show next to the Sphinx. It's not very often we say that in Scotland, John. Yes, it is ungodly hot. But look, they were down in it, really. Him and Del Toro, I'm pretty damn sure, prior to this movie's release, saying it's...
that's right,
I mean, I can't recall the exact words, but they were kind of a down on David Harbour and just the concept of redoing the Hellboy story. It will never be as good as our ones and whatnot. So, but whilst I can understand that he didn't want to come in and do a cameo, because why would you? You played the main character
I
in
agree
this
with
story.
Him,
Why would you want to do a lesser role in this sort of
like,
reboot that you're not interested in anyway?
It was like the Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, doing little cameos in that 2016 release, but not playing themselves, playing other characters. It takes you out of the picture, you know.
And Stephen, sort of devotion to Del Toro and what he accomplished in those early movies aside, you're right, why would he want to come back and play a minor role or just a cameo? It wouldn't work, it would make no sense, unless it's a strange sort of handing the baton over thing, and that's not how Hellboy works. I'm pretty sure it isn't. I've never read the comics, but they don't really do that. He comes out of hell, he's buffed, I want to say brought out of hell by whoever the hell it was, that young man that plays Winston in the John Wick series, I forget his name. Whoever he is, he buffed him, and it was a sort of strange adoptive father situation. That's how it works. They don't pass the baton over. So I agree that it shouldn't have been something that was in his ballywick, whatever the hell that is. He should never have even contemplated it, for a whole manner of reasons. He's getting older, Stephen. Ron, I watched a TV show with him fairly recently.
He's keeping himself busy on Twitter, John.
He's a bit Schwarzenegger 5, 6, 7 years ago, saggy in certain places. A bit fat, and he's a bit old, so he's still in better shape than me. Overall, he's got more muscle than me, so I'm not down him in any way, but he's kind of a bit old.
Sons of Anarchy, he was in, wasn't it?
He was in Sons of Anarchy, he played a bit of a... Well, he's a bit of a shithead at the end, it was revealed, but he's a great actor. I love Ron Perlman as well.
David
Steve
Harbour, John, I know we've talked about this before, obviously when the film was released. What was your take on his performance? Did you think it was a good performance, in the sense that the film was never going to...
No.
It was never going to really succeed, especially with what you mentioned earlier, with the director and the former director and former actor.
And a rabid fan base of those movies.
Yeah.
So when they come out and kind of go against it and say, look, don't really watch this is crap, it'll not be as good as us, it's a slap in the face of what we accomplished. That rabid fan base was just all in. They weren't giving it a chance.
No.
But Stephen, look, it wasn't the best movie. I think we both watched it. I certainly watched it.
It was okay.
I was late to the party. It was okay. Some of the CG was dodgy. Tonally, it was a little bit all over the place. I liked some of the profanity in it, and I didn't think David Harbour was the worst. He certainly wasn't Ron Perlman in the early movies, but he wasn't bad. It wasn't his fault that the movie ultimately didn't work. It was your man that played... What is his name? It's nipping at me now. I need to search it up.
Is it the English guy?
Winston. What the hell's his goddamn
remember.
name? It doesn't matter. He was good in it as well. I liked him as a sort of adoptive father figure. He was treacherous in a way. He kind of sold him over at one point, I'm sure. But overall, it just didn't work quite as good as the early 2000s movies. And it wasn't on David Harbour. And I think it says that Perlman's actually come out and it kind of threw him a sort of...
threw him a bone,
he threw him a bone. He says, look, it's no hard feelings and whatnot. I just hated the movie you were in and I thought I was better. And look, that's fine. We can all be gracious.
Ian McShane, John.
Ian McShane, the great Ian McShane. The man with the distinct, lispy sort of accent. I love that man, and yet I forgot his name again. Cairo Heat. Guys, throw me a bone. But look, It's a shame.
Yeah, as John, you know,
I
it's
didn't get to see Ron
unfortunate.
coming back.
And obviously, the other question I was going to ask, would you think there'll be a sequel? But
No.
I think you've answered that, and obviously your words that you just said in
I didn't
regards
hate
to
it as much
Harper's.
as other people, Stephen.
Well, Harper's performance was fine, you know. It was, but the film was okay. It wasn't. It doesn't merit a sequel or anything like that, like the original did. But
Many would argue it was never merited in the first place.
and
Reboot.
and some would argue there was no point of making the film in the first place.
Like
So
Ron
close,
Perlman and Guillermo del Toro.
exactly. So we'll move on anyway,
Right,
John,
Stephen.
to a little bit of good news. Fortnite is showing free Christopher Nolan movies this Friday, but it's only in the UK, guys.
Hey!
For a certain film, which I'm happy about. On Friday, 26th of June, tomorrow, you'll be able to watch it. It's actually 19 minutes from now, tomorrow.
Maybe I'll watch it
So you'll be able to watch The Prestige for nothing.
Aha!
Although it starts at a peculiarly early 5 p.m. time, John, which I find a strange time to really put a film on, here in the UK. But meanwhile, the US gets
5 a.m.,
Inception.
did you say?
5 p.m. It's just too early for me. Meanwhile, the US gets Inception, and the rest of the world will be able to watch Batman Begins. I love Inception, John. The US are getting that. I love Batman Begins. The rest of the world are getting that.
We've seen Batman Begins fairly
I was going to
recently.
say, John,
Yeah.
I am happy we are getting the Prestige, because out of those three films, it's probably my least watched one. Not because I don't like it, not because I don't think it's on par with the other two films. For some reason, Batman Begins and Inception just have that bit more rewatchability. But are you going to be tuning in, John? 5 p.m. I actually don't finish my work to 5
No, I'll
p.m.
still be working. So is it kind of a joint communal experience?
yeah.
So you can't really come in and then watch it.
No. It's live. It's
I'll
a
be
live
working,
premiere.
Stephen,
Yeah.
Sadly, I'll still be out, and
Yeah.
I'll be
But
out
what do you
in the rain.
But what do you think of this, John? This is actually Christopher Nolan.
Newsreel.
He's actually using the platform to promote his new movie Tenet by doing this, with his previous films, using the Fortnite platform.
Yeah.
He's obviously got his finger on the pulse. He knows where the demographics are. He knows where the audiences will be at that time, wherever you are in the world. So what's your thoughts on that?
Stephen, I think it's an intelligent choice by Nolan. He obviously realises that Tenet's coming out fairly soon. Inception is getting a re-release prior to that if the theatres allow it. And if the actual governments allow it, if the coronavirus can bugger off and stop being a little bitch and stop infecting people. So this may be a way for him to tap into demographics which haven't seen an Nolan movie before, or maybe not the Prestige in particular. Let them see what this guy's all about, the beautiful storytelling that he imbues these movies with, the great calibre of actors that he seems to be able to attract to every movie, going way back. And he seems to have his finger on the pulse, because Fortnite is a sort of game which I've played it once, I was crapping it, man. Played it on my iPad, I never gave it a shot on the PC. But it seems to be a movie which does seem to have its finger on the pie, or on the pulse. I'm combining phrases again. I'm the Ringo Starr
Pulse pie.
of the MBE.
I love it.
Yeah, of the MBE. I'm prefixing MBE as well. I need to get out, Stephen. The heat's getting too much to me. It's going to my brain. But they do seem to have the finger on the pulse when it comes to pop culture.
Yeah.
And they throw in little things, Star Wars things for the release of The Rise of Skywalker. And they do little things like this. So it's a good sort of collaboration. It'll get some of the younger demographic in there. And it's great to see someone of Nolan's era, because I don't know how old he is, but I want to say he's maybe Generation
50s, I would say.
Excel, perhaps.
Yeah, I would say so.
He's got his finger on the pulse, as I did say, and he's giving a bone to some of these younger audience members, giving it for free. Hopefully they'll watch it, they'll be in love with the great movie, because look, Stephen, it was a great movie. Look at the cast, I've got it up: Rebecca Hall, Scarlett Johansson, David Bowie, Andy Serkis, Christian Bale, Michael Caine again, Hugh Jackman, Piper Parable, whoever that is. So it's got a great cast, man. It's a great movie. I loved it at the time, and I still love it to this day. There's not an old movie which I've watched that I've not loved on some level. So I think it's a great decision by Nolan. I think it's a great decision by, I presume, Warner Brothers, who hold the rights. I'm pretty sure it's Warner Brothers.
Yeah,
who deal with Nolan to allow
normally
the license
is,
to be distributed for free on Fortnite. So well done to all involved.
Yep.
But I'll not be watching it because it's too early for me.
Damn early, yeah.
Yeah, I've been working, sadly. Maybe I won't.
What can you do, John?
You know my job, Stephen. It's very, it fluctuates. I may be any earlier. We'll see if I am, then I'll watch it. There you go. But look, Stephen, I'm done.
I'm done.
I need to get out.
I need air.
I need to escape Cairo and run back to somewhere a little bit more colder. Should be Scotland, but it's not tonight. What did you guys make about the headline that we discussed? The concept that Mulan or Tenet may indeed be delayed again. Is it something you think will happen? Do you think it's correct? What do you think about the UK's guidelines, if you're from the United Kingdom, being introduced to theatres? Do you think it's stupid that they're not making mask wearing mandatory? What do you think about the rest of it? What's your thoughts on Perlman and his cameo that was never to be? And finally, your thoughts on the Prestige getting a release on Fortnite for free. If you have anything to say about any of those topics, you can comment below and let us know what your thoughts are down below in the comments section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, and you can subscribe to the channel if you want to see us sweating like rapists on speed, once again discussing movies. And if you do, you'll see us again for a mystery review tomorrow. We've not yet decided. It may be that Kevin Bacon horror movie with David Coip, and then again it may be Groundhog Day again, which would be fitting
Again.
because we did it again. But look guys, if you do subscribe then you'll see us, and if you don't then you won't, and that'll be the end. Bye bye.